What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Valvoline, the original motor oil. That's right, Valvoline was and is America's first ever motor oil brand. For 150 years, they've been innovating, creating, and reinventing the idea of motor oil. From the first high mileage to the first synthetic to the first racing oil, they've never stopped pursuing innovation to maximize engine life. And their latest innovation, extended protection full synthetic motor oil, provides 50% better wear protection than industry standards and is 10 times stronger against oil breakdown. Valvoline extended protection is specifically formulated with dual defense additive technology, which combines an innovative additive boosted with a fortified detergent system. You may not think you're a severe driver, but short trips, towing, extreme temperatures, turbocharged engines, heavy loads, and spirited drives put extra pressure on your engine. And people like Chris Forsberg, Rob Dahm, Tavarish, Speed Academy, Gears and Gasoline, Dustin Williams, and TJ Hunt all trust Valvoline in their cars. They're the only motor oil with a dedicated engine lab where they can run specialized engine tests and standardized engine tests right in their own facility. Valvoline is also the world's #1 supplier of EV battery fluids, offering tailored products to help extend vehicle range and efficiency. Valvoline is proud to be the official motor oil of Hendrick Motorsports, and this year, Valvoline driver Kyle Larson was crowned the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series regular season champion with 9 wins and 2,000 laps led. If it's good enough for these folks, certainly good enough for your daily driver or weekend sports car. So go to your local auto parts store and ask for Valvoline by name. And since that's our only advertisement this week, I want to remind you guys that All Cars Go to Heaven 3 is available on our YouTube channel in partnership with eBay Motors. Zach and I worked to find out if we could build a better enthusiast crossover for under $10,000 in cars and parts on eBay Motors. It's a really fun series. We got a rally stage, we got a racetrack, we went camping, we cooked with our cars, all kinds of fun activities. If you didn't get it in your notifications, you're not alone. That seems to have happened. So go over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/thesmokingtire, and there's an All Cars Go to Heaven playlist right there with not only all 4 episodes of our current series, but our All Cars Go to Heaven 1 and 2 feature-length films available for free on YouTube. That's All Cars Go to Heaven 1, 2, and now 3 available for free on our YouTube channel. Please go check them out. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, the whole deal. All right, on this episode of the podcast, it's a crew show and it's our year-end wrap-up. Things we liked, things we didn't like, what went well, what didn't go well, how cars are looking up, how cars are looking down. It's a crew show, 2021 year wrap-up on the Smoking Tire Podcast.
Yeah, I'm like real stressed right now.
Happy holidays!
I feel like I got judged yesterday. Someone was like, "What'd you do over Christmas?" And I was like, "Nothing." And they're like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Nothing. I sat at home and tried to not get COVID." And they're like, "But didn't you celebrate?" I'm like, "Well, no, I'm Jewish, but also like I didn't want to go out or anything, and like so I don't know, made dinner." And people were like, "Well," they were like, "Well, what'd you make?" Not people, someone. I had this conversation. What'd you? And I couldn't remember. I don't fucking know. I think I made Korean tacos.
Why are you so stressed about this person?
I don't know.
That gave a fuck what you ate for dinner.
Because I just felt reminded of the fact that...
Dude, we didn't do anything for Christmas, and it felt great. Glass half full on this. Like, Sarah and I traveled like 6 weeks in a row to like... We visited our family at the beginning of December, and then Thanksgiving, like all the holiday stuff. And I think we did the Coastal Range Rally. Like every weekend for like 5 weeks, there was like a work thing or a family obligation. So we stayed in comfy clothes on Christmas and Christmas Day. Other than walking the dog, we stayed inside, and it was so great.
I guess it's just because Hannah, who works so much by herself, she's on Zoom calls for like 9 hours a day, but by herself. And she was so like looking forward to doing social things.
Right, that's different.
And now like because of the Omicron and because of the weather, it's all those things were like abandoned. And so it's really like sad and full of anxiety for me.
Yeah, that's true. Because like Zoom calls are not interacting with real people. Like it's very strange.
In fact, I think they remind you that you're not with real people.
Yeah, I think the studies coming out of these couple of years about that, in the future will be pretty interesting on what it does to our psychology and our mental state.
And I understand there's people who like want to stay working from home. Maybe if you're like a job that doesn't require a lot of interaction, but you're forced into it because of, quote, office culture, or if you're the kind of person who faces like discrimination at work and working from home levels the playing field, you know what I mean? Whether it's like full on discrimination or like what you'd call microaggressions or whatever, and your experience is better, or if you have kids and maybe you have to want to take care of the kids, but like Hannah's whole job is about being with people, like her whole job. And so it's like her job is just so much worse by not being able to be with people.
Well, it's like it's 1905 and we're trying to figure out where the pedals should go in a car.
Yeah.
And I think for some jobs and some people, they're learning that work from home is more productive and better, especially like if you're just an editor and all you need to do is focus on your task, like maybe you don't need to go socialize with people or you're an engineer or something, but like for other jobs, it is beneficial to see people. So we're going to figure all that out.
Especially if you have a commute, like a long commute to a job where you then don't actually have to be around people, that I get it. I get it. I'm not trying to invalidate anybody's experience. Like there's some people that really don't need to be around people, shouldn't be around people even.
But she does,
Her whole thing is being around people though. It's like she's like in charge of user experience, like research. Like that's like a whole thing. So I don't know. I'm feeling very negative about the whole thing. Maybe it's because this month was so shitty on YouTube. Like that's a thing. Maybe it's because annoying things have just been happening around me, and like I don't know, I almost want to go back to smoking weed, honestly. Like that doesn't help.
It won't fix it.
No, it doesn't. But like
you'll just dwell on it even more.
I'm already dwelling on it. All I'm doing is dwelling on it.
Dwelling.
All I'm doing is dwelling. I feel like I have like a lot of time to think about dwelling, to dwell on dwelling. Dwelling on dwelling.
Dwellception.
Yeah. Maybe I just need a new book to read. I don't know.
Productive distractions.
It's hard, like for productive people, that don't really like I'm pretty productive and I don't usually like weekends don't really matter. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like work just happens. This period of the end of December where no one else does anything. You know what I mean? You email people and they don't write back for a week.
Right, but we kept
You're trying
working.
to book cars and they're all fucking off. Like someone emails you and you reply and then you get their out of office auto response even though it's been like an hour. You know what I mean?
There's a funny TikTok I saw last night that speaks to this where it's like client, says to a paralegal, it's like, hey, the client needs this by tomorrow morning. So they stay up till like 3 a.m. writing it. They send it to their boss. The boss is like, I approve. They send it to the client. Client's auto response is like, hey, I'm out of office till the next week. I'm at vacation. I'll look at it.
Like,
and that happens. That happens not infrequently in production.
And like, it's just so many people have COVID. Like you talking about your friend who went to the movies, like my brother-in-law and like his kid and like just so many people. And it's like, I don't know what all these people are doing, but like it seems like just basic. It's not like they're all like going to super huge parties. It feels like it's everywhere.
It is. I mean, the transmission rate is super high for this variant. It just is what it is.
So try not to get that.
Yeah.
But like I said, I wake up every morning in my house sniffling, so I fucking feel like it's just this ongoing stress.
You and Charlie Sheen, man.
Different reasons.
Time to be.
I bet Charlie Sheen's got heat in his house.
Yeah, he
probably.
Does. Yeah, and the warmth of whatever bodies he's paid to be there.
Yeah. You think Charlie Sheen is still banging hookers?
I don't know, and I don't know
we
if I want the answer to that question.
Once it was like, oh, Charlie Sheen's got AIDS. We were like, guess we shouldn't make all those hooker jokes anymore.
That was an amazing time as a culture that consumes media because everyone was like, he says he drinks tiger blood, and no one called him on that for like 6 months. Everyone's
Right.
like, well, I guess that's what he's doing. And I'm sure people around are like, no, it's cocaine. But no one said that on television. They just waited until the truth came out, which is amazing.
That was a fun. How long ago was that?
I don't know. But if
I feel like it was like 2018, maybe.
something around there. Yeah.
Fucking wild.
They were just like, how do you do all this? And he's like, I'm drinking Tiger Blood. Everyone's like, oh, I guess that's a thing.
I guess.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was a little more fun then. now it just feels really depressing. I don't know. I'm ending this year like so depressed. Like, I don't know. I really thought, since this is, I guess, the year wrap-up show, I thought we'd be in a different place. You know.
Thought it'd be a positive show.
Well, no, yeah, maybe, but I thought it would be like we'd be in a different place, like, you know, as a fucking society, you know? I didn't think it would be like the year we got even dumber, you know? Like, I thought maybe...
Oh, you thought 2020 was going to be the peak of that?
I thought, yes, I thought 2020 might be like peak stupid.
No, I think this is a...
I swear to God, I think I just saw a bird fly across the fucking shop.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me at all. When those doors are up downstairs all the time. Dude, if birds end up in the airport.
Do we have a bird living in the shop? I think I just saw a bird fly across the fucking window.
It's kind of, yeah, I think that's
boy.
expected.
What?
You ever see a bird at like Terminal C? You're like, how'd you get through 5 doors?
Yeah, that's impressive.
So
that really is. Yeah, I think, yeah. But it, fuck, I hope I don't have to fucking pellet gun a bird in here now.
Do you think the bird looks at the plane?
There is a fucking bird. I just saw it fly again. It just did another lap. Oh, fuck, dude. What are we going to do?
Well, you're good at quail shooting, hunting, whatever.
Fuck. Imagine trying to blast a bird with a fucking 20 gauge in here without hitting a car.
Don't do that. I think you,
God damn it,
are there bird traps besides bread and old people?
Oh, boy.
You need to rent a man to sit on a bench with bread.
Eric, there is a fucking bird in the cathedral room.
He's very worried.
Can you try and figure out
very dangerous bird.
what to do about that?
He's very afraid of the bird.
There's a fucking bird in the cathedral. God damn
How
it.
did you figure out getting a net?
It's like shitting on cars now, and now I'm like, there's a car that's on the 4th rack. It's going to have mystery bird shit on it.
Ooh, that's a good point.
That's what I'm saying, man. God damn.
Buckshot. Airsoft? What won't damage a car?
All of them. Paintball.
I think there's
paintball
got to
gun
be
might.
bird traps. Let's see.
We could put a bird feeder.
Right, with a net above
Like-
it that you drop like Acme.
How the fuck do I get a bird out of there? God damn. Do you think it'll just like die of starvation or something?
Look, this is literally called Bird Be Gone. Stainless steel sky trap.
Sky trap.
That's cool. Or you could make one if you want to. This is a hobby for you. You could make a bird trap like on a loan.
Yeah.
And if you spent like a week in here trying to catch it, you'd be focused. And if you didn't catch it, I don't want to talk to you because you'll be so frustrated.
I know.
Yeah, just buy a bird trap.
Oh,
Look,
boy.
this is $50.
All right. Bird be gone.
Bird Be Gone.
That's, yeah.
What an amazing name. Yeah, do that.
Oh, boy. It's that kind of day, huh? Rainy and cold, and there's fucking birds
I
in
think
the
the
shop.
bird is a fun, friendly distraction. Other than the cars you're going to have to detail.
Yeah. Well, at least we got guys for that. Oh, just flew by again.
Oh, Alex says, bring the cats to work. Great idea. Give them something to do. Finn.
Finn would catch
this
it. Yeah,
bird
Finn
up.
would fuck up a bird.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. The other ones I don't know about, but Finn would definitely fuck up a bird.
Yeah.
He's a tough bitch, that guy. Finn's been bullying Nikki. I'm trying to figure out what to do about it. Because they're siblings. It's not like they're like stranger cat, like, you know what
Rivalry.
I mean? He's been bullying her. He's been kind of a dick about it. Anyway, we drove a lot of cars this year.
We did.
And Zach was like, "Why don't we make a list? Why don't we make a list of our things? We got our favorite things, maybe some of the least favorite things, and make it one of those like listicle
A
shows.
listicle. Top
Listicle
10
shows.
cars to eat food in. Something like that on BuzzFeed.
Right. I read an article about that crazy algorithm about how they come up with what the lists are, like where the holes are in Google
In
searches.
SEO?
Yeah, in SEO, they need to fill with those.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I guess we could probably just dive right in. We also, I never talked about the Lamborghini Essenza. I went, it was like probably, I guess it was about 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. I went to, I'll go further up. No, further, by up I mean down. Down, sorry. Down. There it is. I went to Las Vegas. When was this? When was this post? December 8th. Yeah, I guess it was a few weeks ago. And this thing is pretty fucking batshit, right? So you've got, in the world of Lambo race cars, you've got the Trofeo, right? The Super Trofeo, which is like the club racer, right? That's sort of the, if it was a 911, it would be the Cup, right? Then you've got the GT3, which is a step up from that, different aero, same powertrain and that, but it's Huracan based. And then this thing, this is sort of like, it would be the Lambo's version of the Ferrari FXXK. So it vaguely resembles an Aventador. Vaguely.
It's rounder. There's less angles to it.
It's rounder. There's less angles. There's a lot more downforce. And in fact, it shares no body panels at all with the Aventador.
Yeah.
It has no common body panels.
If you look at it, I mean, the back actually looks more like a speed tail.
It does.
Wow. It's good shape, though.
It is a $2.5 million race car. It has, where's my notes? It has, I should get the notes. Where is it? Where is it? Where's my notes? What happened to it? I made the notes. Where the fuck? It has an 830 horsepower naturally aspirated V12. There it is. Limited to 40 units only. They're all sold out. It looks vaguely like an Aventador, but it is in fact constructed like a prototype race car.
Whoa!
So carbon monocoque. It actually
different carbon monocoque than the Aventador, like totally bespoke?
Totally different.
Wow.
It is a GT racing car that will meet the FIA prototype standards.
Wow!
So I don't know if it's not like you couldn't enter it in Le Mans, but it does meet their safety standards. So there's no cage. It doesn't have a cage at all in it. It's the full carbon cell. It has an X-Track sequential gearbox. It's rear-wheel drive only. It has magnesium wheels, push rod inboard rear suspension. It makes 1,200 kilograms of downforce at 150 miles an hour.
Wow.
1,200 kilograms.
Yeah.
Which is 2,600 pounds.
2,600
No.
pounds.
Yeah. I think it's about 2,600 pounds. It has 20% more torsional stiffness than the Huracan GT3 Evo. And it's extremely crazy. I mean, fully developed by Squadra Corsa, the racing program.
I mean, the rear diffuser, you could stand in as a phone booth. It is so
crazy.
deep. Wow.
The only actual part it shares with the Aventador is the engine block. It's the only part. Everything else, including the crank, the fucking rod, like the internals of the engine, are all unique to this car. It's just the block that it shares with the Aventador, and it is a race car. So I went to drive it in Vegas, and I drove it on the Dream Racing track, which is a track that is in the infield of Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So if you pull up Las Vegas Motor Speedway, there, just get the map, and then go to the satellite, and you'll see what I'm talking about. If you go to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway and flip it over to satellite on Google Maps, you can see the infield road course, which is, if you're going to go test out, to get a little feel for what it's like to drive a 911 GT3, okay, the infield road course is not a bad way to do it. Like when I went with Ferretti to do the little tuner car challenge, and I was lapping my Fox body, which was like 280 horsepower, it was fine, right? But when you're talking about a car that it's physically it's bigger, its footprint is bigger than an Aventador. It's longer.
Wow.
It's longer and it's wider than an Aventador. Okay? It's a huge car. It's obviously enormously powerful. And the downforce, although, downforce increases in a linear way, right? It's got slicks on it. But this course, and the front straight there, which if you're looking at is the straight part, you're just touching fourth gear.
Okay.
Like you're into fourth gear, and then
what's the speed at the top of third?
it doesn't have a speedometer. I have no idea.
Okay. So you're probably just getting into downforce at that point.
You're not anywhere near 150 miles an hour. You're probably going 110, 100.
Oh,
no,
wow. Shorter ratios?
No, maybe it's 120. Right, to just touch fourth gear. And because it's in a high downforce situation, like the car's not geared to do 240. The car's probably geared to do 180 or 190. You know what I mean? They didn't tell us a top speed, but it's geared for road courses. And how many road courses are you going to crack 200 miles an hour? You know what I mean?
Almost none.
Almost none. But it would be right at home at Spa, or at any one of the Formula One circuits. You know what I mean? But like by road course standards, this is a short one.
Were most of these corners second gear?
Yes.
Okay.
So I kept it into the big double apex at the south end of the track leading onto the front straight. Mm-hmm. That's third.
Okay.
The kink before that, so you go and you're in second where the mouse is right there. It's the entire northeast half of the track is second.
Wow. And
the southern half of the track is third.
Wow.
So and then you just touch fourth. So it's tight for a track and this thing is wide. You can't see a fucking thing out of it because the windshield is like horizontal with big thick A-pillars. So it was very, very challenging and very intimidating to drive it on a short course. The corners come up on you really fast. Like that whole section at the east side of the track, that little chicane zigzag section, that is by far the hardest section because the corners come up on you just really, really fast.
Yeah, I mean, this is almost it's like 3 S's.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
but they're all different radii.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's an open one, and then basically a kind of a throwaway one, and then actually a decreasing one. And so it was very, very challenging and very intimidating to drive. That's not to say it wasn't fun. You know what I mean? This thing is really fast. It's really aggressive. It has 5 modes. I started in mode 1 and I worked my way up to mode 5. Mode 5, it's like super aggressive. Like I would have, if I had more time, and I only got 2 6-lap sessions, that's all I got. And so if I had more time, I'd probably spend a whole day on mode 4 before fucking with mode 5. But I wanted to get there because I had so little time to do it. And I had a little, right where that says Ophelia's World, that's right where I had a little code brown. And you'll see it in the video. I didn't break the car. Fortunately, I basically that. So you go up in the map.
There's not a ton of runoff.
It wasn't there. It was the inside curbing. Right where the mouse is on the left.
Yep.
I went wide there and I hopped the inside curbing a little bit.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's actually when I went back to watch the video, it was much scarier in person. The video doesn't make it look that bad.
Of course, because in person, you're just thinking of the dollars.
Yeah.
Every
you go,
second.
I've just broken this $2 million car. And I didn't. I continued lapping afterwards. The car was completely fine.
Yeah.
But like, it was a full-on code brown. Yeah.
I understand. I was so nervous driving that Hyundai EV because it was like, this is the one-of-one laboratory for them. And it's 800, and they turned up the power on the second lapping, the second lap. And I was like, don't fuck this up.
Yeah.
They have one of them.
Yeah.
And these guys built it, who I just met.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's very, very intimidating. And they told me that half the people who have bought them have 0 track experience. 0. Like, I'm not a fucking pro racing driver by any means. I'll never say anything like that. But I have enough experience where you can put me in a car and I'm going to do like okay. You know what I mean? I'm typically not going to fully embarrass myself.
And you also understand where the limits are and how to incrementally approach them, I think, because of all the cars you've driven and the locations.
Yeah. And so I think I'm like a best. If you had me, but like all the money in the world, I'm like a best case scenario. I'm a pretty good student. I have some experience. You know what I mean? I know the value of a car and a dollar. But like he's like, yeah, they're like half the people have never been on a racetrack before. I'm like, this is what you're starting with? This is fucking crazy.
I have to imagine that. I bet 90% of those people are just buying them as investments.
Could be.
10% will actually go track it, and if that's their first time at a track, that's crazy.
Yeah. And you don't get to take it home.
Right.
They keep it at Santa Gata in its own private garage. They built a garage. So you get the car, but you get a garage also.
For just your car?
For just your car.
Ooh.
And they're like, it's got video cameras there 24/7. You can access the feed. I'm like, what kind of a loser is going to be like...
Oh, people will.
Oh, I know.
People will have
I
their
already know
friends
the
over
answer to
and
this
they go,
question.
There it is.
There it is. Where
Yeah.
is that, huh? Oh, it's Italy? Oh, I see. Weird.
That's in Ocean's 14 where they do the thing where the screen suddenly gets like on a loop feed and then the actual car gets stolen. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they'll fly it. They're going to have organized track days, obviously, for just these. And then also they'll fly it to wherever you want. If you want it to, obviously at your cost, you want to do a track day, they'll fly it and a support team, because you need the support team. You can't just turn the key and start the fucking thing. You need the support team there, so they'll do the whole thing. And it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's pretty crazy. So, it was nice of them to let me have a go. I certainly appreciate that. I wasn't the only person who got to have a go. Some other journalists got to have a go. But it's insane. And it's not the kind of car where if you don't have a bunch of, like, Super Trofeo is really pretty easy to drive. I mean, it's on slicks, and it's rear wheel drive and not all wheel drive. But besides that, it's pretty manageable, actually.
With real high grip and a bit of downforce for the power.
Right.
Yeah.
This is, if you have to like, and I'd like to see what it's like on Road Atlanta or somewhere where you don't have to be looking out the sides so much. Like this is like, these are hairpins. Like you're looking out the sides. Like to keep your eyes up ahead of the car, you really have to look around a bunch of shit. There's the V-box thing up here, and there's these big A-pillars, and the windshield is an enormous piece of Lexan, but it's at an angle where you're looking at it like a bread box. Really hard to see.
I'm always impressed by racing drivers who can put the car exactly where it needs to be, despite having that kind of visibility, especially if they can't see the corners of the of the car. I mean, it's very impressive and
like
very
a
difficult.
GT3 was like a living room compared. The Cup car I drove at Lee, and not that I put on some incredible show, but when I drove the new 992 Cup at Brainerd, it was like luxury living in there. You could see all the way around. I mean, it was great.
Right.
This thing was really low, and you could even look. You could tell in that photo you've got just how little of that windshield is usable.
Yeah, I mean, that's the case with these cars, and whether it's a street car or a race car.
Yeah.
And with the race car, they tend to just add more stuff inside the cockpit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice it didn't have a cage because that adds another thing that obstructs your view.
Yeah. It did have like an adjustable steering wheel and pedals. So once I was sitting in it, it actually was reasonably comfortable to sit in. So that's good. It does have air conditioning, so you're not going to die in there of heat. That's good. These rich guys, they're not going to want to.
Of course,
they don't want to die cook in a race car, And it was very, very intense. So
I mean, I'm sure the shifts were like snap fast with a big
race
loud
car,
bang.
Race car,
awesome.
big
And
loud
the sound
bang,
has gotta
kick.
be amazing.
It sounds like vintage Formula One stuff.
Yeah.
I did manage to get decent audio. Actually, I wrote subtitles. We're gonna have subtitles on the video because if I understood what I was saying when I went back to watch it for the subtitles. Like I was like, oh, the whole time I was like, oh, this is actually a lot better than I thought. But we're putting them there. You'll hear me. You'll hear the car, but we're putting subtitles anyway. But it sounds amazing. I mean, I don't know at what point the words "worth it" come in. It doesn't matter. They're all sold out. It's just crazy.
I mean, if you want to play F1 driver and your favorite era was V12 era, I mean, this is a way to kind of get close to that without spending $15 million
Yeah.
and having the limits that high. I mean,
It
these
was
are
interesting
high,
that
but-
it has an X-Track gearbox, but it does not have a clutch pedal. So a lot of these racing gearboxes, including the Porsche 992, when you put the racing gearbox, you need a clutch pedal to get the car going, and then once you're going, it's a 2-pedal kind of deal. This one, 2 pedals only.
Wow. I wonder if they have some kind of like electromechanical thing
Yeah,
that does
they
it
have
for you.
they have a
Yeah.
thing, and that you can adjust how aggressively it engages. There's a knob. There's a knob for fucking everything.
I mean, that's what you get for a car that's, what, 7 times the price of the 992
yeah,
Cup. you know?
yeah, yeah. Well, there's that too, right? You
You
can
know,
buy. A
I
Cup.
don't want to operate the clutch myself.
Yeah, Cup car, $300,000. You know, this thing, $2.6 million.
I really like the shape of it. I think it's better looking than the new Countach.
Oh, way
I mean,
better. Way
it's-
better.
You know, the back is a little McLaren Speedtail just because the shapes are similar, but that's how you get the aerodynamics you need.
Mm-hmm.
But man, like the front, it's more round than Lambos of late, but it's really nice.
But until you know, on this course, and granted, I went out with one of their racing drivers. You know, he drove it like a racing driver, right? He obviously had a bunch of seat time in this thing. Very hard on the, you know, really heavy on the brakes, getting a lot of heat into the tires, and he was able to show me, you know, what it can do, and I tried to get close to that. I really did. And in some parts of the track, I was able to, in other parts, not quite as much. But if you're not, you know, with slicks, and between where the slicks start working and the aero starts working is this sort of gray area. You know what I mean? Especially if you like can't quite get enough heat into the slicks, the thing fucking moves around like crazy. It really moves a lot. You'll see in the videos a lot of counter steering.
Wow.
There's a lot of oversteer on power. There's oversteer under braking. There's a lot of catching the car, and it's kind of a fine line in between the speed I was able to go on this short track and the speed that the Pro was able to go, and that little bit of difference is like where the real heat in the tires comes from. You know, so it's really challenging. It was very hard.
None of us will ever forget when Hammond drove that F1 car,
Yeah.
the Renault, and they were just kept telling him, like, you don't have enough heat in the brakes or tires to even make the thing work.
Yeah.
Because it's like you have to be so aggressive to get the system up to temp,
Yeah.
which is really, the limits are above what most people, even decent performance drivers, are like used to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, I mean, the videos is cool. I think the video is pretty cool, despite the fact that the track is short. You know, I definitely drove it as fast as I could drive it, you know, given the the limited amount of seat time I got. I don't recommend this for people who are either just going to get a little taste or don't have a lot of track time, because it's very intimidating.
And that step from driving cars that don't have aero to cars that have real aero,
Yeah.
like that's got to be a couple of racing courses you should take just on its own. I was just
You're
reading,
not
like,
fast enough on this. None of the corners on this circuit are fast enough to use aero at all.
Oh yeah, you can tell. But on a course that has corners that will use the aero, I've read. I think Jack Ruth had a really good article on the difference of how they feel and like the speed you need to go to where the aero starts working and when you notice it, and then you have to get used to taking corner 2 at 40 miles an hour faster than the other performance car you in that didn't have aero. And
Yeah.
your brain has to get used to that, and you use the car in a totally different way.
Yeah, yeah. So
Nutty.
I'd love to try it on a big fast track where you're really actually getting into the aero, because I just was not able to do that on this very, very short track. And even their pro was like, yeah, you're not. There's no aero here. It's like you can get some heat into the tires and you can use that level of grip, but this wing is doing absolutely nothing here.
Wow.
So
So nuts.
yeah. So yeah, if you happen to have 2.6 million.
It's, Lamborghini saw the FXX model. And
Yeah.
So like, why not? Yeah.
Basically. So back to Earth. Favorite cars of the year. Zach came up with some categories. I pretty much went along with them. Favorite budget sports car. Favorite SUV. Favorite truck. SUV/crossover. Favorite front engine supercar. Favorite mid engine sports car. Front engine and rear engine sports cars. He wrote supercar and I changed that to sports car. Favorite EV. best car vacation, worst car moment, and best car moment. So I guess we'll just go in order, right?
Yeah, and for the record, we have not seen each other's answers or discussed it other than just the category. So I don't know if ours are going to line up or not. Hopefully they're a little different, but we will see.
For favorite budget sports car, I had the 86.
Yes, I agree with that.
I think for $28,000 starting, I think the BRZ was $31,000. I mean, that is just clearly. I mean, granted, we've got the new GTI in 2 weeks, but I don't. Based on what Paul and Todd said on this show, I don't expect a radical departure from previous GTIs. But that thing is fast, composed, sticky, rear-wheel drive, but loose if you want it to be loose. That's just so much car for that much money.
I think it's in a class of its own, basically. I mean, the Miata costs a lot more to get the decent suspension, the Recaros. You have to spend like $35,000, at least with the RF with the hardtop, which I like. And the GTI is a great like all-around car that has sporty characteristics, but I don't know if I'd consider it a sports car. Like it's a hot hatch, but this is like traditional sports car.
Yeah.
Front engine, rear-wheel drive, and it does all the things well. And it gets 30 whatever miles per gallon highway. The seats fold, like it's very useful, and it's like a rare thing these days. There's
fewer and fewer of these types of cars.
Yeah.
I mean, if you pick up an issue of Road and Track from 1994, there's a bunch of affordable coupes that you could buy. You know what I mean? It's more than just Miata and 86. There's 10, 12 options, whether it's the Nissan, the 240, you've got
RX-7s.
The RX-7s, you've got the Acura, the two-door Integras. You've got like even stuff like Chevy. You had like the Beretta and like the Cobalt SS or the Cavalier Z24. There was a lot more options then, and the options have gotten thinner, fewer and far between. There's more compact crossovers than there are, sporty coupes now.
But what's cool about this is they're not lazy going, well, it's a competition between us and Miata, like we can be lazy about it. Like this is, even if you took this car and transported it back in time to when there were 15 options, I think it would still, granted engine technology is different, like it would be at the top of that pile, if not like in that top 5, because it's just so good at so many things. Yeah,
and they took people's complaints about the first gen car and they actually improved on those things. That power band, even though it still doesn't have a turbo, I don't really wish it did, because they've messed with the cams and the ECU and stuff in a way that and the displacement, right? Did they increase the displacement?
With the new engine?
Yeah.
2.4?
Yeah, it's a 2.4, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And so they've done things that have given it more power in a very practical way, like it's way more fun to drive than the 2-liter Supra.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So
because that car still, to me, feels heavy.
Right.
Even though it's lighter than the inline 6 Super, it just feels like a big car, a little bit slow. And this thing feels super light on its feet, but also, of course, put together very well. It's nice.
I just don't know why they got rid of the knee pads. That's a weird one. I had bruises on my knees for days.
You get some double-sided Velcro, and then you got to get some padding and just make your own.
It's weird. I don't know why they got rid of it.
It'll be an option.
It seemed like a good idea. They had it. It was already there.
Maybe it'll only be in the BRZ Limited or something.
I guess. I guess. But that's a necessary thing if you're going to be driving fast. But the rest of that car, the inputs are really good. The power to weight is really good. The ability to carry speed through corners is amazing.
Front end grip is awesome. The steering ratio is great.
Even going up, Angeles Crest at 5,000 feet, I was able to carry a lot of speed and really, really give some much faster machinery, something to think about.
Does it have a different steering system than the last generation?
Yes.
I remember it feeling lighter in this. The rack's quick. It doesn't have quite as much feedback.
They did revise the steering system, yes. I don't love the new steering wheel. The new steering wheel's a little small and funny shaped compared to the last one, but.
It has very few faults, basically. I mean, it's such a good car.
I'm griping about a very little thing. See, I like that steering wheel better. The last one.
Well, that's a weird wide shot.
That's the new one.
So this is the new one, 2022.
That's the new one. But we'll go to the last one, the 2015 or 16 or whatever. See, I like that steering wheel. It's just simpler.
Yeah, it is simpler.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's like a very little bit bigger.
It's just round.
It's just round. Yeah.
Take note, Tesla. The steering wheel is round.
Yeah. Favorite SUV, Zach?
The Macan GTS.
Okay, so you went with the crossover angle on that one.
I did, because it's the first crossover I've driven that made me think sedans are not always better. And because dynamically it was so good and so fun to drive quickly. Most of the time it's still like, I can still feel the higher center of gravity. It still feels heavy or tips a little bit too much. This thing felt so good and natural going through corners. And then, of course, has all the ground clearance and all the other practicality. Like, I was hurt a little bit that I said that when I did. But I'm like, yeah, but that's true. Like,
I prefer the Macan GTS to like the M3. If I was going to have a car, just one car, if I was going to be a one-car person, I'd rather a Macan GTS than an M3.
Yeah, I agree.
You know? I'd rather have, I suppose, an M3 as like a second car, but I wouldn't have an
comp.
M3 is not a good second car for me because it's too big, and like it's got the coupe's too big, but the sedan is too practical to be a second car. But like it's not as good of a first car as I want either. It's not like as flexible.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, you can't beat crossovers in terms of flexibility. That's the thing. Like you have all-wheel drive and you have ground clearance and you have all these things and they're quick and exciting. I mean, they're putting it all together. It's very impressive.
And the Macan is the only car in Porsche's lineup where there isn't a turbo above it anymore. So the 2022 Macan takes the 2021 GTS and turbo and makes them one car. So it's not like in the other cars in the lineup, the GTS still doesn't have the power that the highest like the GTS is the highest performing Macan you can buy. There isn't a turbo version anymore above it. They're all turbos, but still.
Right. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
So I thought the Macan GTS was awesome. And it would be a great only car. My favorite SUV of the year was the Defender 90 though. I thought it had such a nice personality. I thought it had such a nice footprint, being a relatively short, compact exterior dimensions, but still had a ton of interior space. I didn't like the sixth seat in the middle. I would prefer the regular standard armrest. The sixth seat was optional, but I thought, it held 5 people perfectly. Tons of room in everywhere, nice greenhouse, great storage solutions, amazing off-road capacity, but really good on-road mannerisms. Obviously, we talked to Doug DeMuro last week, who's done 25,000 miles in a year in his. 85, 90 miles an hour on the freeway, silent. Even with the cloth, we had the cloth roof option, and it was still totally quiet and refined. It was only a couple, 5,000-6,000 more than the equivalent Bronco.
Yeah,
but
and
such a
way
nicer
quieter.
place to spend your time. And I just thought that they did the Defender name proper with that thing. It's got such a wide variety of usefulness. You know what I mean? You can really, really do some heavy duty off-roading, but you could also drive one and never go off-road,
right,
and not really feel like you were sacrificing anything.
And that's kind of why I think a lot of people probably thought we were going to go with Bronco, but for me, it was so compromised driving on the road in terms just the noise.
Yeah.
It's so loud, and when you can get a Defender for literally like a few $1,000s more, and the way markups happening with the Bronco these days, you could probably get it for equal money.
Yeah.
And you're getting something that is, for most people, as capable off-road, but a much better on-road experience.
Yeah, the Bronco is only awesome compared to a Wrangler. The Bronco was nice. It was fine. But it was so loud at 80 miles an hour. Like, even with the hard top, so loud. And there's a lot of hard plastic. I realize that some of that is functional if you want it to be able to get wet or whatever. But like the Wrangler, you know, the price tag gets up there and you don't feel it. You know what I mean? You don't sit in it. You don't sit in a Bronco and go, yeah, this feels like 62 grand.
You have to use it for what it's designed for,
Right.
and you feel it.
Yeah. But the Defender, it feels much closer to a Range Rover than it does to a Bronco.
Yeah, I agree.
You know,
Yeah.
and you know, I don't know if there have been reliability issues with Defenders. I don't really think so. I think they've been all right. There were some issues with it. The touch screen was slow and kind of laggy. I didn't love that. But driving it was so nice. Whether you're on the road or off the road, it was made off-roading very, very easy. What?
Oof.
Some issues?
Yeah. It just said worst.
Where did it say?
Here
In
you
a
go.
survey conducted by the worst score possible.
By Reliability Index, the Land Rover Defender got the worst score possible. This was done in 2020.
What's reliability index? Most common problems were leaking rainwater seals, key fob or locking malfunctions, and various engine failures. Well, that's not great. That's not good, is it? I don't know what reliability index is. Is that a real thing? Is it from England? What's reliability in? I don't know.
I don't know. It could be a survey that's sent out by a third party or something.
I don't know. Unfortunately, we can't really do that kind of stuff, that kind of testing here.
We can't. I mean, I know assumptions can be problematic. The Defender does have a complicated powertrain, and they don't have. Land Rover doesn't have the reputation of Honda. Let's say.
Right.
Like that is a fact. So, I don't think either of us were trying to like bring that into these choices.
I mean, we can. We drive the car for a week. Unless
it's
it
new,
actually breaks on us, what are you going to do?
Right.
And this car was too new. These cars were out for like 3 months when we drove them. Unless there's like total catastrophic failures going on, like the GT3 engine recall. What do you do? We don't really know. But operating it, on the one hand, the Macan GTS is amazing because, like you said, it kind of negates the argument for a sedan in terms of performance, daily usability. On the other hand, if you're going to get an SUV, you might as well lean into things that SUVs are good at, maybe, right? I think that's two ends of that spectrum.
Right. Yeah, the Defender is the more off-road side of the Macan. The Macan has enough, for me, it's like it has enough ground clearance I can put snow tires on it and do the things I like to do with an SUV. I can't do hardcore rock climbing, but for me, I just remember it was this light bulb moment where I finally was like, I was always going, no, a sedan is better than a crossover. Dynamically, they're more fun, da-da-da-da. And this was so good and better than many sedans that I was like, I can't say that anymore.
Yeah. Did you actually have a favorite truck?
Yeah, but it's... I think I drove more trucks than you. Mine was the F-150 hybrid, which we took on the trip. Really because I was so impressed with the integration of the hybrid system. Other than that truck's weird clunking first gear, it gives me a lot of confidence in how the electric Lightning will be and how useful that truck was. Like, it was really comfortable. It was super quiet on the highway, quieter than some cars and SUVs we drove that were not pickup trucks. Sync is super fast. Like, it does everything so well. And then when you add in the electric power in the bed and those systems that will be even better with the electric truck, I just went, yeah, this truck is really good. And the next truck that's kind of built off of some of this education is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't drive very many trucks. I didn't drive that F-150 hybrid at all. And so my truck experience this year was very limited. But of those, my favorite truck was actually the Mercedes Sprinter 4x4. It's more of a van than a truck, but it's pretty trucky.
Yeah, it's in the heavyweight class, right?
Yeah.
We'll call it that.
Yeah, and I drove the overlanding one, and we made a video about it. And granted, the actual build out, the RV portion of the particular one that I drove, I didn't find to be the best. I think there were some issues with that portion of it, but actually driving this thing, both on the road and off the road, I was really impressed at how much of a Mercedes it was. Like it hadn't lost any of its Mercedes-ness by being a giant van. The seats felt like they were designed by neurosurgeons. You know, the Mercedes steering wheel and switchgear was incredibly high quality. The dash was super high quality. The way it delivered power, the gear changes, the manual paddle shift controls of the gears, all that stuff was just super, super refined and really felt like a luxury item. And it should be, because a Sprinter 2500 is like empty, is like 65 grand. But if you wonder if this thing's got a Mercedes badge on it, and a Mercedes price tag, how much Mercedes is really in there. And to use it, it feels like an awful lot. There's a lot of Mercedes in that.
Well, I think they sell a lot of vans, especially in Europe, for just utility use.
Mm-hmm.
So for us here, we go, we get this novelty Sprinter thing that, I mean, they're used for utility, but they got so popular because of van life stuff.
Yeah.
So we might think, okay, well, is it a rebadge something, or is it Mercedes' new experiment in vans? Like, no. They've been doing this for a very long time.
Yeah.
And they know that contractors and people that drive vans and delivery stuff in Europe, like, they need to sit there for a long time. It has to be comfortable. It's got to be perfectly ergonomic, and it really shows.
Like the visibility was really good, and
The seats are excellent.
the seats were amazing.
Yeah.
The seats were, I mean, to spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours in these seats, Mercedes, nobody does seats like Mercedes.
Yeah.
They're the best. And so, especially for like long haul type stuff. And the seating position in the seats were just incredible. The radar cruise worked really well. Like, just everything about it was of a Mercedes quality. And so that, to me, was the most impressive thing about that van.
I agree.
And it was great off-road too. Really, really good.
Yeah, they're really stout, right?
Yeah. Favorite front engine supercar? Ferrari 812 GTS. I mean,
812 GTS.
I mean, there's a limited amount of competition, right? We drove the AMG GT Black Series. I think I actually also drove the GTR in 2021.
As did I.
You drove you drove the Nissan GTR.
Oh, right.
I drove the AMG GTR.
Yeah.
I mean, and I said supercar there because that's what I wrote, but I really was including things like the M4 and all the Supra, other sports cars. I included in my consideration, but the 812 GTS is just so amazing. And the Roma, drove the Roma in 2021 also. The 812 GTS is just like everything I like about Ferrari.
Yeah, I agree. Granted, I mean, we know that it's however many, 6 times the price of a Supra. I think for me, it's the front engine V12 NA motor is not long for this world, but I think the turbo inline 6 will be here for a long time. Like, there will, in 2 years, we could probably put the Supra or equivalent, BMWs into the same competition, and they'll be there for contention.
Yeah.
There might not be a front engine, naturally aspirated V12 Ferrari in 2 years or 4 years.
I mean, I didn't think about it like that. I was just in terms of to have a front engine V12 car that turns like that.
And rides like
that. And you've got a retractable hard top, but it doesn't feel super heavy and it doesn't feel super flimsy when the top is down. It looks equally good with the top up or down. Really, it was $500,000, but it could have also been $500,000 and not that great. Like,
right.
The AMG GT Black Series was cool, and they're selling for $500,000 right now. And I prefer this to that, and
yeah. I mean, there's also like Aston Martin has competition in this.
Yeah,
space,
we drove.
but
DBS.
I think GTS is I think the 812 sounds better, looks better, more fun to drive. I mean,
still very usable. I mean, it has it's got a decent sized trunk. You can use it as a kind of a regular car if you wanted to. If you got enough money, there's no reason you couldn't just use that as a car.
Yeah. And the sound.
It sounds crazy.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It is amazing. And the little rear window that goes down so you can hear the sound but not have to have the sun or the rain on you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
That's
so good.
they learned that
so
from pickup
good.
trucks, and it's great.
It's so good.
I forget what the first, I think the Gallardo, the Gallardo Spider had that. I don't remember if the 575 Super America had the retractable window. I think maybe it did. I don't remember if it was the first car to have that. It was either the 575 Super America or the Gallardo Spider was the first one to have that, and it was that's an awesome feature. That whole lower the rear window in the convertible so you can just leave that open for some fresh air that's nice. But the 812 is very pretty, very, very, very fast, very composed, but with that razor sharp steering, that you want from Ferrari, and comfortable. Totally comfortable. How about mid-engine sports car?
I went with the Boxster 25 years with a nod to the 720S Spider because the McLaren is one of the greatest overall cars I've ever driven.
Yeah.
But I think I like the Boxster's more approachable pricing, we'll say. And I think the interior of that 25 years looked more luxurious than the McLaren. The McLaren has kind of had the same interior for a long time. And if you look around, you go, ooh, Alcantara and this floating carbon thing. Like, that stuff is nice. But the seats were not that great. And, the screen, it looks a little bit old and whatever. And I think the Boxster 25 years punches above its weight class in terms of refinement and luxury appearance. But it's also fast enough, rides great, handles great. Like, that is a do-everything sports car.
Sure. That's a good, and you could probably, you don't necessarily, I think, have to get the 25 years one. I think you get a GTS and you end up in almost the same place because you can get
I agree.
almost everything, except those wheels you can get in the gold trim. You can get everything else that's on the GTS.
Right. You can get the red interior in the GTS.
Yeah.
And the red interior is what I think looks so nice. It was just, that's the one I drove, so that's the one I remember.
Yeah. That's a good one, and in hindsight, I might have maybe gone with that. But I actually went with the C8 Corvette convertible because it's the first Corvette convertible, really for me, like ever, since like the 60s anyway, where it's like the convertible isn't like the you know what I mean? Like where they clearly just went, okay, what is Ferrari doing here? Just do that. It's got the humps, it's got the fast retracting hardtop, and it manages to not really cut into the trunk space. So you can still use the trunk a lot. It looks great with the top up and with the top down. It doesn't feel flimsy or flexible. The structure feels very rigid. The C8 is an amazing car.
Yes.
To begin with, and one of the reasons in the past I've been so into the Targa roof one instead of the soft roof one is because it's quieter inside when the top is up. The body lines look better. The cloth roofs on Corvettes never really looked that great, especially if you got them in like tan or whatever those ugly colors were. And with this one, they finally were like, okay, do what Ferrari does, do what McLaren does. And the car looks great with the top up. It looks great with the top down. You can, it goes up and down really fast so you can decide at a red light, the sun has come out, top down. I think being able to take off the hard roof and put it in the trunk, that's awesome, and they should keep doing that. There's no reason to make a purely fixed roof version, especially if the structure is not affected. But the fact that you can have this retractable hardtop now that isn't a penalty.
Totally.
Yeah.
You can still take the convertible to the track.
That too.
And in the past, when they had the convertible like ZR1, and you're like, what's this for? Like, you need roll hoops or something like that.
So I think, there's the Boxster I thought was great, but it wasn't in any way surprising. I've got a lot of Boxster experience, and although I agree with you, everything you said, all the stuff on the GTS, with that 4-liter 6, but that 25th anniversary package and the luxury red interior, like that shit was badass. Like I loved that car, and the fact that we had a little mechanical whoopsie and I got to drive it twice. Oh well, but this was such a step forward from the previous car that it was like, oh, this thing. I was so much more just impressed by what it was.
I was incredibly impressed. The Corvette is one of the most remarkable cars I think ever made. Like in that lineage, my criticism of it is purely subjective. Like I don't like the way it looks, and it hasn't grown on me. I think it's fine. I really look forward to if they change the design in 6 years, but they keep the bones as they are. Like then maybe it'll be amazing. It's really like if it's my favorite car of the year, I just need to like the way it looks when I walk up to it. That's all.
I don't love how it looks either. I don't think I'd buy one, but there's some other things about it that I don't love, but it drives amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
They've gotten so close to what the full-on exotics are doing. When the Z06 engine comes out, I'm sure they'll be even closer.
Yeah. The transmission is amazing.
The transmission's amazing, and the convertible top mechanism is the best one that GM has ever made.
Yeah,
and
true.
so I thought, and I want to do honorable mention to the Demand Motorsport GT 4.5, which I drove in March, and yes, it's a tuner car, and it's based on an existing car, but 4.5 liters and 500. Plus horsepower in a Cayman. It's very, very along with the shorty gear set is very, very, very tasty. So I think my pal Ricky D gets an honorable mention there. I didn't do a favorite tuner car. If I did a favorite tuner car, that would definitely be it. Although I'd do that would be my favorite tuner car. Honorable mention, the Drift Hummer, the mil-spec Drift Hummer, which is a H1 Hummer that they cut down to 5,200 pounds from over 8,000 with a 1,000 horsepower Duramax engine swap and an Allison gearbox with a rear wheel drive selectable transfer case and power paddle shifters. And it runs like an 11 set. There it is, and it runs a low 11 in the quarter mile.
That's crazy.
And it will drift, and it's because of the H1. Because the H1 is what the H1 is. It's mid-engine. It's front mid, like the Ferrari 812 or the AMG GT. The whole engine is behind the front axle, so you can actually. And there's a photo on the left of me drifting it. So that's me at an oval, just fucking drifting.
So much smoke.
It was great. So the drift Hummer gets honorable mention.
That's one that's fun, and I think the Demand is like one you'd keep in your garage. Like that's the difference between those two.
It's the only fun Hummer I've ever driven. Is the drift Hummer. It was insane. And then I did a fucking full bore drag launch in it and lit up all four
tires. I can't believe it runs 11s. That is, I mean, that's just power times mass, but that's insane. Incredible.
But I would love to do more with the Drift Hummer because it weight transferred so well. I was surprised, especially inboard brakes. It has inboard fucking brakes.
Maximizes the braking force, right? Isn't that? I mean, that's how it came, right? But isn't it actually make for more braking force if the brakes are like on the axle?
I don't think so.
I think because then the lever is smaller. That's why
it reduces unsprung weight.
Yeah,
but I don't think it.
I gotta look it up. Maybe
I don't think
wrong.
there's anything good about inboard brakes aside from maybe packaging issues. I don't like.
Have you ever seen monster trucks that have the disc brake on the drive shaft? They have a drive shaft brake also.
Really?
Yeah. They're like, stop this shit right now. Yeah, it's cool.
It's weird. Do you have a favorite tuner car?
I don't think I drove very many. I think I drove the BRZ, which was amazing, but the fumes, the gas fumes were a bit much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if it had a couple of things sorted out, then like that is an amazing visceral experience. But I don't know how many tuner cars I drove, so I don't think I could really make a list.
Yeah. I did the tuner
You
car
did the
show for Haggerty.
Right,
which
exactly.
Something tells me it's not coming back.
Neither of us have gotten an email.
Yeah, didn't really work out.
Yeah, if 500,000 people could go watch Modified, Rated, and All Cars 3, that'd be awesome.
It would
that'd
be
really great.
Awesome. Favorite EV?
Mustang Mach-E. The Lucid was amazing and gets a huge amount of respect for entering that space, but I feel like I don't think it's as hard to make a six-figure car that is amazing, like it should be, very good. But to make a $39,000 to $50,000 car that feels as good and buttoned up as the Mach-E does, especially for the first effort from Ford.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed. Like riding in yours, driving the other ones, like I really like that car.
Yeah.
Big fan of it.
I also have Mach-E. I've now got just under 8,000 miles on our Mach-E. Specifically, the one I have, I think I bought right. Rear wheel drive, long range, premium. Mm-hmm. It was $53,000 on the or 52.8 or something like that. Granted, I haven't had to drive in the snow. Okay, I've driven in a lot of rain, and I think it's got the best combination of powertrain, range, and comfort that they're offering. The GT, you know, as we saw, we did in the video, it definitely goes faster, but I don't necessarily think that the trade-off is worth the money. Mm-hmm. I don't think the all-wheel drive programming really makes it much more fun. And the suspension was really firm. Really, for a mag ride,
Yeah.
I didn't think the envelope of soft to firm was quite big enough. But you know, we've done road trip to Las Vegas for SEMA. What a lovely thing to drive to Vegas.
Panoramic roof. I mean, it feels like a really nice car.
Yeah. The radar cruise works great. I don't use the lane keeping thing. I can steer my own car. Thank you very much. But it's comfortable for long road trips. The interface is really nice with the CarPlay as well as Sirius and all that kind of stuff. The back seat room and the trunk space. I very rarely have to use public chargers unless I'm on a road trip, and it feels like a very luxurious thing, and it's great to use every day, and it's not insanely expensive. You know, someone came to tour West Side the other day, and they drive a Model Y and saw the Mach-E and asked if they could sit in it, and they sat and they go, "Oh my God, it's like a real car." That was what they said. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, oh, my car is like, it's nice to drive, but it just doesn't feel like it was made by people who make cars. And I was like,
God.
yeah, that's about right. It's a real car. It feels like a real car. And yeah, I love the Lucid. I thought the Panamera GTS, or not the Panamera, excuse me, the Taycan GTS was awesome. And
the Audi, I mean, the Audi is also amazing, but they're
like very expensive. They're really expensive. Yeah, I do think going from the RS e-tron GT or the Taycan, and then we drove the RS7. If once you drive a very fast EV luxury car, gas-powered luxury cars feel awful clunky, don't they?
Yeah.
They feel clunky and unrefined. Then you go, well, for six figures, I need to be electric now because they're just so much smoother. The wave of torque, the silence. Once you get accustomed to that, your definition of luxury goes up, right?
It's like you're getting a Rolls Royce for a third of the price.
Right.
Because
of that level of refinement.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like RS6 and RS7 are lovely cars and they go very fast. But compared to the e-tron, which has basically the same interior, you know what I mean? They feel very unrefined and kind of clunky. Whereas the Mach-E, I feel like democratizes a lot of that experience at a much lower price point.
Right. I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah.
What I'd like to see, and I said it in the video, if Ford wanted to really milk, because like when this lease is up on the Mach-E, the electric Macan will probably be out. And I think that is probably where I would go from here to the electric Macan. But if Ford wanted to keep my money, they would do a softer, a more compliant version of MagRide with the seats and appearance package from the GT and call it LX. If there was a Mach-E LX that had those seats and a nice MagRide body control, but not so firm, they'd probably keep my money instead of going to Porsche.
Would you put the luggage rack on the trunk and
Yes.
convertible like the Mustang 5.0?
Yes, exactly. I'd have the tail. I'd want the tail lights like the old GT tail lights. But the Mach-E hasn't disappointed. We've had a couple little issues with it. There's the software, regarding how it interacts. Hannah's got an old phone. She has an iPhone 10, which by EV connectivity standards is an old phone. And so it occasionally wigs out and doesn't connect properly. My iPhone mini, my newer, a year-old iPhone, has never had this problem with the car. And we did have a couple weeks ago, they replaced the body control module because I've put a video of it on Instagram. You'd put the windows down, auto, and it would go down and then back up. And you'd hit it again and it would go down and back up. And then if you did it not auto, like manually, like held it, it would stay.
Okay.
And so that happened. And then I got a warning on the app saying ABS fault. I never experienced it in the car, but I got a warning on the app saying ABS fault. So I took it to the Ford dealer and they said, we have to replace your body control module, which they did in about 3 hours. I got the car back and it hasn't happened again. So that's that. But none of the issues we've ever had with it have prevented us from driving it anywhere or using it normally. So, not perfect,
Right.
but pretty damn good. Yeah, pretty damn good. Best car vacation?
I mean, this is going to sound... a lot of eyes are about to roll, and people are going to say, of course. But, I mean, I got to go to Ferrari and visit the factory and drive on the track. And, I was trying to think
Technically not a vacation.
Technically not a vacation. It was a work trip. But it was it would be hard to replicate that even if you have money and try to make a vacation.
I think you can.
You can do some of that.
I think you can do some of that.
You can do some of it. I don't know if you can do all of it. I got to see the FXX room and the F1 room. And, I mean, maybe you can replicate it, but it's not for the amount of money I'm able to spend. So I think that was really special. And I don't know if I'll ever get to do that again, but I got to see all of the things and, see the restaurant and see the Michael Schumacher signed thing up at, what's it called? The restaurant across the street.
Cavallino.
Not Cavallino, the other one, Montana, Ristorante Montana, where all the drivers have gone and they have a bunch of stuff. And, it's just amazing to see, that's Enzo's office next to the fucking test track where he'd sit there and work and then watch people, run and see how the cars are doing. And it was just really special. It's really cool to see that. I just like seeing where the cars are made, whether it's a Corvette factory, Ferrari factory, anything else, because I think so many times the cars just appear and we see them online and everything, and you forget that there are people that make these. It's not robots. There's people assembling the stuff. There's people that are running the machines, and all of that comes from human effort and intellect.
Only
and
with
really
Morgan do you can never forget that there's humans.
Very true. Very
Drive
very
a Morgan
true.
and you go, oh, Dave made this one.
Yeah, yeah. So that's my favorite automotive trip of the year.
There you go. My favorite was actually a boat trip. So we went going to the Audrain with my dad. I love going on trips with my dad. I think I'm glad that I get to do that kind of stuff with him. And although we took a boat to a Cars and Coffee, which I've never done before. I mean, how often do you get to take a boat to a car show? That's weird and cool. And the fact that I figured out that we could do that and actually did it worked out really well. But we've talked about the Audrain a lot. It's a cool show. Newport. It's a whole week of stuff. There's little mini car shows all over town. The town of Newport, Rhode Island. There's lectures. There's displays. There's speakers. There's parties. And Newport, Rhode Island in the summer is such a nice place to be. It's small, and so you can get around very easily. It's crowded because a lot of people are in town to see it, but it doesn't have the total shit show vibe that Pebble Beach Car Week has. They haven't got there yet. And seeing what, although Pebble Beach attracts a global audience, Newport is starting to, but the Northeast, it's really interesting. They're very they dress up a lot. But they also celebrate American hot rodding more than, like, you don't really think about hot rodders and formal wear together. You know?
Yeah.
So that was interesting, and I loved the side element of boating and these kind of old Victorian Gilded Age mansions, which on the one hand are monuments to things I don't like, but on the other hand, to just experience them for being beautiful structures and backdrops of car shows were very cool. And the cars, the people were very interesting, and a lot of memories were made in that 5 days. And so I think I'll be going back to that.
This looks like a really cool trip. And
it was a really fun
very
time.
cool car show.
Yeah.
A little tighter than Monterey Car Week's amazing. We have to drive to everything.
Yeah.
We drive to a lot of stuff, I should say.
Yeah, we took bird scooters.
Yeah.
And so that was super fun. And the one thing we couldn't take a bird scooter to, we just fucking cast off the lines and took the boat there. So that really worked out nicely. And then of course, honorable mention to the All Cars Go to Heaven 3 shoot, which as far as shoots go was by far the best shoot I've ever done.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
I agree.
able to plan properly because of my demands and Zach's preparedness to not have it be a total fucking shit show. And we didn't break anything in a way that prevented us from finishing the shoot. We got to work really hard throughout the day, but on a reasonable schedule that allowed us to get the things done we wanted to get done so that we could still enjoy a little bit of Austin while we were down there. We just worked with great people. And it was just a great experience. You should go watch All Cars Go to Heaven 3. It's on our YouTube channel.
The people like it. The
People who watch it really like it. We just need some more people to watch it.
Yeah.
Did you have a worst car moment of 2021?
I did.
What was that?
Losing by 1 second to you at Harris Hill.
Not on the rally stage, only on the racetrack?
No, the rally stage was, I think, 4 seconds?
It was, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe it was 4 seconds.
So that was like a wide enough margin. I was like, oh, that wasn't really that close. Maybe I had too much wheel spin here or there.
So you looked better doing it.
I think I had a really good time. I think I was much more serious on the road course, and it was so fucking close. Like 1 second.
It was pretty close.
If I gotten on the throttle, or if maybe the thing had downshifted anywhere, it's so close. So that was pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That would be it.
Yeah. My worst car moment, we talked about it last show. Finding out that my Ferrari major service bill was fraudulent. Finding out that I got mildly hosed by a Ferrari major service bill. It's not the kind of thing you want to find out. It was fake.
It's like finding out the house you bought is full of asbestos, you know, and you missed an inspection or something.
Yeah. That's one.
That sucks.
Yeah, that sucks. And my best car moment of 2021, I think, was finding out that getting to find out how good the E46 chassis was, and then deciding to buy one just after that. I hoped. Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's not a moment, but like, I think that my experience with that car, the car in All Cars Go to Heaven 3, that led me to the car I have now, is a very good one.
Yeah.
That's it's not a moment per se, but it's like a thing.
Well, I know what you mean, because I think if I was going to go with moment, like rallying the Crown Vic, and actually getting a text from Rally Dave saying that this is his favorite car now because he's rallied it.
Oh, really?
Like, that's a moment. But driving,
is the BMW still alive?
I think so.
Okay.
I'll ask him. He didn't mention it. He just mentioned the Crown Vic, so I win that round.
Oh.
Might be favoritism. But on a related note to your E46, driving my car on the Coastal Range Rally, which was an amazing trip, Coastal Range Rally, but the Ferrari won because your trip will be around next year. I fell more in love with my car and remembered why I like it so much because I hadn't really driven it hard in like 8 months because it had a clunk in the thing, and it was like up at Carbon for a while. But it really does so many things well. It really, really does.
Yeah.
I really like this car, and I think you'll like yours too. Like it has such a broad skill set. It's so comfortable and quiet on the highway, and then it can haul ass if you wanted to. And so that, to me, just like reaffirmed that I'd made a good decision, 3-4 years ago, even though it's had its ups and many downs. Like that was my favorite car moment, is rallying with all the people and just going like, this was a good idea.
Yeah. That was a fun trip. I definitely brought the wrong car. I mean, I didn't have another option. I mean, if I had brought my own car, my car was too nice, honestly, for that. There's the gravel and shit I would have had an aneurysm.
Yeah.
So better someone else's car than my own for that kind of thing. But like, it definitely that's the kind of car where an E30 with imperfect paint is the right move.
Or your car with full paint, like clear
if
bra
it had
front
film
to
on
back.
it and stuff on it, that would have been fine. But my car doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So that's our year. That's our year. It's been a fairly shit year for car YouTube. I mean, it just, even though we had our data analyst guy go over and tell us that it was not as bad as we thought. It's still rough. I mean, it was still rough. I think we learned that some of the stuff that we want to do is like bad for our careers.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to review some motorcycles, but like they're actively hurting our channel. And like we wanted to do some of the new like EV crossovers because we wanted to drive them, and that is like actively hurting our channel. And so
like I enjoyed learning about the Mirai and the Nexo, like the hydrogen stuff, because obviously alternative fuels are really important to know about these days.
Yeah.
But no one watches the videos, and it fucks up the algorithm.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that like the way that YouTube works is like you have to do the one thing. Like it's I get like cunty with people that are like, I came here because you did this. And then and it's like if you're in need of variety or creativity and I mean us in our lives, it's like there's just not. It just doesn't exist. Like you literally will get fucked for like expanding your horizons, which kind of sucks. It's so, we're gonna try and in 2022 we also we got to a place where we're only doing press cars, but it was me and Zach, and so we started selling a good amount of ads, which is great. But then you have to have videos that we had to have 8 videos a month because we had ads to fill and whatever. You have to satisfy those requirements. But like, there may be fewer videos in 2022 because if we're only going to do videos on certain type of car, if people only want to see us drive sports and sporty cars, there aren't enough.
Right.
I mean, there literally aren't enough.
I mean, you could easily cut, if you look at 2021's catalog, 10 videos would be gone if you got rid of alternative fuels, EVs that people weren't excited about, etc., like trucks, vans.
I mean, we'd probably drop at least 1 to 2 videos a month without that stuff. And so there might only be, instead of 8, there might only be 6 videos a month, and that may in fact be better for us than having 8 videos a month, but 1 or 2 of those are about topics that negatively impact the algorithm,
right.
Which is a shitty thing to say because like it's not how you want things to work. But we've got enough emails from people that are like, I've stopped getting notifications from you. I mean, what that means is that we put out videos that were not interesting to a sufficient number of people that YouTube then fed that back into the algorithm and they stopped notifying people.
Yeah, there's an advantage that magazines have where they can kind of be creative with stories or whatever, a few times a year or even like once in an issue. And if someone subscribed to that magazine, they're probably not going to change their subscription based on 1 or 2 articles they don't like.
Right.
But it's the rest of it they like. But for us, it's more like if someone goes, oh, I don't like this article on page 7, the next month the mail just wouldn't bring you the magazine. That's how the way YouTube works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's frustrating, but I guess it's the world we live in. And if you want to change that world as a member of the audience, click on all the videos. Even if you're not that interested in that particular car, because if you don't click on the videos, the software will see you not clicking on the videos, and they'll stop sending you ones that you might want to see.
And if you're a subscriber, you don't hit the alarm button. That's a big thing. YouTube won't notify you, and they might not put it in your subscription page.
Yeah.
Because like the ones you hit the alarm on go to the top.
3.1% I saw this morning. 3.1% of our YouTube subscribers have the notification bell enabled. So there have been a couple people who said, I'm subscribed and I have the notification bell enabled, and they still aren't feeding me your content. But I bet you most of them who are saying we're not getting notifications from you did not click that bell.
Right, yeah. So just a reminder, it's something, there's that extra function.
I hate to be the like and subscribe guy. It makes me feel corny as fuck. But that's the way the system works. We've got some questions for our Patreon. If you want to get involved in the show and have your questions answered on the air, the only way to do that is to be a patron at patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. 3 levels of membership, $3, $8, $10. At $10, you get a 9th extra show every month just for you that will not be public. Not to mention, you get early access to episodes and everything else, ad-free experience that you come. I think over 90% of our patrons are at the Pro Driver $10 level, but that's okay. Whatever works for you. You could also not do anything and get the same show you've always gotten with ads and stuff. Let's get to some questions. Miguel Flores, do you think F1 drivers have a hand in designing road cars? The AMG GT Black Series has me wondering if Lewis Hamilton was involved in any way. I don't really think so. I think they probably get to have a go. Maybe they get to give their thoughts. I'm sure the designers or the powertrain and chassis engineers are interested in what the racing drivers have to say, but it doesn't really seem like they have a hand in designing the cars.
I think if they're that involved, you know about it because the company would do a lot of press to say so. So if you don't see that, probably not.
I think Senna gets a lot more credit for the NSX than he actually deserves. I love Senna. But like that video of him driving the NSX, I don't think he had a lot of actual development.
Well, they said after he drove it, he told them like it was too soft and a bunch of other things, and they actually went back and like changed the chassis and reinforced a bunch of shit.
Well, he probably gave notes.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably gave notes.
But I don't think he sat there with a pen and was like, No,
I think the GT Black Series, and just like the Huracan STO, they work backwards from homologation rules.
Yeah.
Like if to race a certain car in GT4, there has to be a production version of it. Well, they've figured out how to sell a production version of it so they can then go race that better car.
Yeah, I think people need to give more credit to the engineers at these companies, especially the racing engineers and the chassis engineers. Like, it's cool to have an F1 driver give input on a car, but some of the people that do this all the time and build the race cars in the GT program, like they probably know that that craft better than the F1 guys. The F1 guys know how to drive and they know how the car works, but like, the people that really know how to do the chassis development on the AMG, they're the ones that build it.
Yeah.
And they're good.
Yeah. Chappie wants to know, should I get a 2019 or 2020 Audi SQ5 or a 2018 Macan S with under 50,000 miles? Big differences here. The turbo engine versus the supercharged engine. I think the Audi SQ5 used the V6. Didn't the Audi SQ5 has the V6T, which was actually an S supercharged, right? 3.0 V6. No. Is it turbo? They went from supercharged to turbocharged at some point. I don't remember when. When was it? Engine. Siskiyou Turbo. No, it's Turbo. Well, that's certainly one less difference. I guess it was the earlier one, maybe. Originally, they had the supercharged one from the S4.
Right.
I would say the difference is the steering. The Porsche will have a sharper steering rack. The other difference, because they are platform mates, is those cars. Porsches in general, and I know this because I went to the factory that builds the Macan in Leipzig. Porsche has 4 times as many quality checks on the assembly line that Audi does.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's a lot. That is a lot of how the Porsche is more expensive than the Audi. It comes from stuff like that, not necessarily. Oh well, the body work is more expensive or the engine is more expensive. It's from the time it takes to make them because there's a lot more checks. I'd probably rather have the Macan. Fundamentally, they're not hugely different cars. They'll have similar levels of performance. They will have, similar space, similar whatever. The styling is what it is. I'd probably buy the Macan though. They're not hugely different, but yeah. Daniel Hunsinger. Gran Turismo's Vision GT is a very interesting look into what auto manufacturers can design. Do we have a favorite design or thoughts on the idea in general? Vision GT is what? Where the manufacturers submit designs for Gran Turismo, right? For the game, right? What if you design the ideal GT car? Is there a list of cars? Porsche Vision Gran Turismo, Jaguar Vision Gran Turismo, Lamborghini Vision Gran Turismo. I haven't looked at any of these before, by the way. Let's see. They all have these sort of similar kind of designs where air goes like through the body. And the Daihatsu looks awesome.
Very rally.
The McLaren kind of looks like the existing Senna. The Bugatti looks sort of like the existing Chiron. Hyundai N. Oh, that Peugeot I think is very nice. The Peugeot Vision Gran Turismo, that's pretty cool. The Mini one is pretty lame. The Infiniti one looks cool. They'll never sell anything like that.
Dude, the Chevy Chaparral is crazy.
Yeah. That goes back to 2014. Wow. Oh, wow, the I like the Mercedes one. It goes back all the way back to 2014, and it looks like the front end of how we ended up with the AMG GT. That Mercedes one is very clean. It goes all the way back to 2013, but it's a very clean design. I like that. The rest of these really they look like super fucking race cars.
Yeah, a lot of them it's just this is just
That's
so
the
clean.
Mercedes one from 2013.
It's just so
really
clean. From the side, yeah. It's like a stretched out F-Type, smoothed out a little bit. It's gorgeous.
I like that. What's the Porsche one there to go to the top one, the newest one? This is December 5th, 2021. Porsche Vision Gran Turismo. It looks like the Mission R prototype, kind of, right?
I just want to find a photo instead of a video.
I think it's a cool concept, right? Where they get to, instead of just releasing a concept car, right, that'll never be driven anyway, that's just a display car, to actually release a car in a video game. Mm-hmm. You save money by not having to physically build something.
Yeah.
But then you can introduce some dynamics that would allow gamers to sort of maybe see what it could be like. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
and you
pretty
get to
cool.
see it in motion, operated by human beings, which is very rad.
Yeah. It's a great idea.
The Porsche is very good looking too. It does look a lot like the Mission R.
The Mission R
Just a little less
resembles
hardcore.
it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
In general, I like it.
It's a good,
I like it a
good
lot.
idea that they've been
But I
doing
think
for
you
a
got to
long
go
time.
all the way back to 2013 for that Mercedes to see my
So
favorite
smooth,
one.
right?
I kind of wish, like, in the thing we just read about the ethos of it seems like ideal GT. The rest of these cars, a lot of these cars look like prototype race cars or like rally cars. They don't really look like the ideal GT, do they?
No, I think some of them they have to be a little more extroverted to grab the attention. Like the Peugeot, the car they're starting with resembles their hatchback too much, so you have to kind of go crazy.
Yeah. Richard Toruellas. I hope I got that right. Toruellas. I think that's right. Did any of the mods on All Cars Go to Heaven affect the street driving quality? Yes. Zach's suspension.
It's terrible.
It was terrible on the street. The rally suspension looked interesting. What would you guys build with a $40,000 budget? So 4 times the budget that we had for that show. On my car, the mods didn't really affect it negatively. I mean, I suppose if you wanted to really make it the best street car you could, you would not have put rally suspension. You would have just replaced it with brand new OEM,
Depends on the street, though. I mean, that suspension has me think, like around LA. I mean, if I suddenly had fuck you money, I'd have an E46 M3 with that suspension.
Well, my Safari car in LA was a great street car, except for the very heavy clutch.
Yeah.
The suspension was awesome.
The suspension was great. The car was not perfect.
No, because it was old and it had race car shit on it that wouldn't be ideal for daily use. But I mean, the rally suspension wasn't bad on the street on the BMW.
No, I mean, nice.
I thought it was pretty good. It was a little firm on the small bumps. It wasn't until you got to the bigger bumps. When I drove it on the dirt, it was like, oh, well, this is obviously what this is for, because it really smoothed out a lot on the big bumps. But on the small street stuff, you would feel some things. Like, you'd be better off with like Bilstein OE replacements for the street. For the $40,000 budget?
I think I would build like a 2.5 RS. If we were doing the same thing, I know that there's a road course component and a rally component. So I would try to make the quickest all-wheel drive thing I could.
Sure.
That's probably what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, if you actually wanted to like win, I mean,
salvage GTR.
One of the things we learned about All Cars Go to Heaven 3 is that our cars didn't look weird enough. Whether that was just because we didn't change the wheels. I thought about buying wheels for the car that would have made it look different. I decided not to save money. I think maybe I should have bought different wheels, or like we should have made them look sillier.
My wheels changed themselves throughout the show.
Yeah. So I think, if the point is to win the competitions, then Zach's right. A 2.5 RS Subaru with a STI engine swap and building a proper rally car is what you would do. If the point is to have a successful video shoot, and Zach did that, I would have built like a C4 Corvette rally car. You know what I mean? Like big lift, big fucking tires in a car where the car itself was small. And it
like a Hot Wheels car kind of.
And it looked like make it look really silly in the Hot Wheels. That's real in the screenshot. I would have been yellow, like I would have made it look fucking silly.
When we first started the shopping process, I put on my Instagram stories, I said, does anyone know of a lift kit that works for a Camaro? Like an F-type F-body Camaro? Because that's where I was headed. But I had 0 responses, and I was like, well, if I can't fabricate this myself. But yeah, that's like a V8 sports car lifted would be awesome.
Right. I would have done a C4 Corvette probably and made it really, really silly. And that would have, for $40K, that would have worked. I could have gotten an even fairly decent one.
Totally.
$20K gets you like all the C4 in the world.
Oh yeah, I was finding them for under 10 when I was looking, for sure.
Yeah. Solitary Hero. I read Car's review of the 992 GTS, and they said lane keep assist is 3 menus deep and needs to be deactivated with every startup. I don't think that's accurate. You didn't mention this in your video review. How annoying is Porsche's lane keep assist? It's very fucking annoying. Every press car I drive, one of the first things I have to do is turn off the lane keep assist. What did I just drive where it was horrible? And it was hard. The RS5. The RS5, it's on the very end of the blinker stalk, which, if you know it's there, is no big deal. But the actual like thing that says, here it is hidden directly behind the steering wheel. So if you don't know it's there, I dug through menus for 30 minutes and I couldn't find it. I was like, there's got to be a way to turn this fucking thing off. And it took me forever to find it. And when I found it, I was so relieved. I only drove the Carrera GTS for one day. I do not think that what he's saying is true. That might be a Europe only thing. I don't think it's true. I don't think you have to deactivate it every startup. If it's 3 menus deep, no, it's not. It's not, because I've driven other Porsches, and it might be 3 menus deep, but you don't have to turn it off every startup. I don't believe that's accurate. Because there's no reason it would be on just the GTS either, right? Like, it's not like if that was a thing, it would be total model line, right? So I only drove the GTS for one day, but I most certainly turned it off and on 30 times, right? Because you do when you're filming. But also, I've driven every 992 that they make. Coupe, Carrera Convertible, Carrera 4, Targa, Turbo, GT3, all of them. And I've never experienced having to deactivate that every single time you start the car. Never. So either that is a Europe only thing and there's some kind of regulation governing it, and whatever car magazine was driving, because they're out of England, had a thing. Here's a video showing how to find it in the menu, but you absolutely do not have to turn that off every single time. No way.
This is lane change assist.
Yeah. Well,
what's this?
Yeah, no, lane change assist, which is just the thing that lights up the mirrors. Mm-hmm. You just leave that on, but it's the lane keep assist that's right there that'll fucking nudge the steering wheel and shit. Yeah, you don't want that. I will say with 99% certainty that you do not have to deactivate that every time you get in the car. There's just no way. There's no way I would have driven 5 different cars that had this and not noticed it.
Yeah, it's true.
That's either an oversight on cars' part that they didn't figure out how to turn it off properly or something, or it's a Europe only regulation. But that was not my experience at all in the 992 generation of Porsche. Moving on. Pocket sized. What is the sketchiest factory car you guys have driven? I remember Matt saying the C7 ZR1 is too fast for a stick. It is. I mean, it was. It really felt like, it was at the limit. You know what I mean? At the limit. And the Viper ACR was the same kind of thing. The Viper ACR is a fucking race car. Mm-hmm. Really, it was a race car. And the C7 Corvette was the same. The C7 Corvette ZR1 had so much power, it felt like it was trying to spin the rim inside the tire.
So cool. And crazy.
Yeah. And when I was driving it on the racetrack, not on the street. On the street, it was a Corvette, honestly, very fast, but it rode, steered, stopped, as long as you kept it within reason, it was very nice. But on the track, when you're really going at the limit, I was at Road Atlanta, so you're braking from 170 to 40 to do the chicane, and you're talking about going down 4 gears. That's a fucking intimidating multi-gear rev matching downshift situation. And so, cars definitely at the very, very fast end can be very intimidating with a stick. And the Viper ACR and the ZR1 Corvette were definitely it. I mean, when you start getting cars that are faster than that, they've got paddles. You're keeping your hands on the wheel to change gears. I mean, the Lambo STO, the video went up today. That's pretty fucking hairy for a street car. I mean, you can see it in the video. It takes some hops. It's a lot of power. It's rear wheel drive. It's light, and they've sharpened the steering. So every little move.
Driving a big Willow, it moved around a lot.
Moved around a lot.
It was intimidating.
Yeah, and driving on the street, it moves even more.
But if you had to shift it manually, it could be a lot more challenging.
Really, really hairy. But the tuner cars that I've driven, the enormous power tuner cars, have been way hairier than anything you can get from the factory sometimes.
I think that the 13 Shelby GT500 that we drove, I think that's sketchy because it was. I felt like it was under braked and under tired.
Yep.
And it still had a live axle back then. So you put all those things together, the power overwhelmed traction control so quickly.
Yeah.
So like the Viper is a car for adults.
Yeah.
But I think it's easier to get into trouble because the Mustang seems approachable, but it has all this fucking power, and then it can't rein it in as well.
Manual, like 2014 narrow body Challenger Hellcats were really hairy.
Yeah.
You know, with the shorter wheel. Like the Hellcat motor in the Charger is pretty manageable. In the Challenger, it
feels different.
It
It
feels
does feel
totally
different.
different.
Yeah.
Especially with the narrower body and less tire. Very hairy. Yeah. But otherwise, you got to go pretty far back. You got to go to like the Ford GT or the Carrera GT or something. But that's 15 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Dom Santomieri, watch question. My Orient has been picking up 3+ minutes a week. Seem to be riding from riding a few thousand years on my road bike with it and going shooting with it. Can you recommend any dive-style automatics under 2K that would stand up to a serious beating regards to vibration and shock? Tough one, because a lot of those shock-specific watches are a little more expensive. If your Orient is, rather than buying a new watch, if you've been doing those activities with this watch for a couple of years, for like $200, you could have that watch serviced and it'll be back to factory specs, and that resets the clock. So if you like that watch, you don't need to go spend $2,000 on another watch in order to get that. There are also, let's see, I believe, who makes a good shock? Well, actually, Bremont, the Bremont MB2, which is the ejection seat watch, the Martin and Baker, is a high shock watch. What do they go for used? It looks like they're about $3,500 used. They're $5,000 new. They're about, and my Bremont sponsorship is over. I'm just trying to think of the cheapest automatic movement watches that are resistant to shock. Now, I should tell you that pretty much all quartz watches are resistant to shock, and I don't just mean digital. So you can buy a medium to high-end quartz watch from Seiko or from Citizen or from any other number of companies that'll withstand shock better than an automatic movement. You could also get yourself like a G-Shock for your activities, you know, but like that top left, what's the top left there? That guy. This one's on eBay used, and it looks just like the Seiko SKX 007 professional dive watch. Oh, it's got the Japanese day date wheel, and that one has a quartz movement. And functionally and aesthetically, it looks just like the automatic ones, but with a quartz movement, it'll be more resistant to shock. So you know, you can get something like that, but if you're doing high shock activities like shooting guns or playing tennis or golf with your watch on, you may just want a.
I mean, guns must shake the hell out of a watch, right?
You know, there's a couple of schools of the generally accepted knowledge is that you shouldn't wear your automatic watch while shooting guns. Whether it's sporting clays or quail or handgun range or whatever, that the shock will. Other schools of thought, I know a lot of people who are shooting enthusiasts. This guy who taught me and my dad, who's like super fucking Skeet Lord. This guy, Skeet Lord sounds.
Do not Google Skeet Lord.
Yeah, don't Google Skeet Lord.
Or do.
But this guy Chris Batha, who was our shooting instructor, and he's a G. And this dude shoots with a Rolex on, and I was like, Chris, I thought you're not supposed to, mate. Fuck that. You know, he's a fucking like old school English. Fuck that. I've been shooting with this watch for 30 years, mate. Okay, you know, and that's anecdotal, you know, but it depends on. how accurate you want it to stay. And you can also have these watches serviced. It's like if it starts to gain time or lose accuracy, a service fixes that, So I wear automatic watches while shooting because I'm like, I just want to, because if I break it, I want to find out. I just want to find out. Like it's worth it to me personally to see what happens. Some people, maybe not. My father, he takes his Rolex off and he has a Luminox watch, which is like a Navy SEAL kind of watch. That's a quartz watch. It's like plastic. It's not plastic, but it's like PVD. I think it's maybe like $400. Luminox. Yeah, it's a nice. And he really likes wearing. Yeah, the second one in there, $200. Not even $200. Yeah, Carbonox quartz, just like that. That's what my dad wears to shoot guns in, and people like those too. That's what like actual Navy SEALs wear, is stuff like that. They don't wear like the fucking expensive stuff. Vlad Tetaranu. Can an EV be a good sports car? Compared to my Lotus Exige V6, my 911 SC feels slow. I'm considering an EV swap with about the same weight and weight distribution. Would it ruin a good car, or would 400 horsepower EV make it great?
It's probably not going to weigh the same, is it? I mean, if you're going to EV swap it, it's going to...
He said same weight and weight distribution.
I know, but I guess if he knows of a swap that is the same weight, good. I was reading this like he's considering an EV swap, hoping it has the same weight. Because if you're adding a battery pack, then it's going to add a lot of weight.
The battery pack goes where the engine goes, right? And you're taking out, and you take out the. Yeah, I know, but the motor would go where the gearbox goes. I've seen this done. There's people in LA who have these.
Doesn't add that much weight?
No, not really. You have to calculate how many batteries you want and what you want your range to be. You might only get 100 miles. You might not. You're not going to get 300 miles necessarily. But I mean, yes, an EV can be a good sports car. It can. It's going to be different. You might not have. You could do the manual. There's a guy with a 912 EV swap in LA that has a manual gearbox also, no clutch, right? Can't stall it, but you shift gears, and he finds that interesting. There's other people who would say that your 911 SC might be slow, but it's the vibrations of the engine and the engagement of the transmission and the feel of revving it out and the sound that it makes that make it great. How attached are you to the things that make it great, and make it a Porsche versus the fact that it's slow compared to your other car? Old cars are always going to feel slow compared to a newer car. But if you take away the sensory engagement of it in pursuit of speed, have you actually made it better? It's up to you and your own personal value system to decide. I personally am not interested in EV swapping sports cars. I think it could be cool to have a 59 Caddy EV. You know what I mean? An old cruiser, an old Rolls Royce, EV. Something where the feel of the engine itself isn't really part of the charming experience,
yeah,
right?
The cruise is that. The cruise. What the charm is there.
Right. Like to have a 59 Caddy where you're just cruising down the boulevard anyway. It's not about, I don't even know what kind of fucking motor's in that thing.
Big V8.
It's a big V8, but
V8.
like, it's not like it's the sound of the V8 that makes that car what it is. It's the cruise.
Right.
So like,
and he might be misconstruing a lot of the feeling he gets in his Exige, or at least I can't remember which one it was, for just speed. Like he's whittling that experience to just one thing, which is forward thrust.
Yeah.
So to what you're saying, like, yes, it's faster than your Porsche, but you're going to lose a lot more of that experience than just the power.
Right. Yeah. David Zumot, if you were to own a E90 M3 manual, what mods would you do to add to the driving experience? It is the daily driver car, but I work from home. So far, I have an exhaust, wheels and tires, carbon intake plenum, and a tune.
I reviewed an E90. It was white. Someone by this guy, I think JP. Whatever he did, do that. I can't remember what he had. It was like sways and basic coilovers, but it made the car feel 400 pounds lighter than the other one I'd driven. It just turned in better. It's cornered flatter, and it made it feel agile. It was awesome.
The only thing I would find a way to lower the seat. I feel like you sit up on top of those cars, whereas with my E46, I feel like I'm sitting nice and down.
You do? I feel like I sit really high in my car.
Mine, I don't feel like that.
Oh, okay. Which seats do you have? Are they manual or
They're automatic. No, they're power.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I could go lower, but compared to the E92, I feel low. And I mean, I wouldn't do a lot of bolt-on mods on the engine. You don't get a lot for your money there. I mean, if you got big dollars, get that Dynon 4.6 stroker motor. Just do that. But I mean, if Zach drove some suspension, some suspension that you liked, I haven't driven an E92 in a very long time. I mean, I remember I drove one that had the KW DDC, the dynamic adaptive coilovers that Turner had on theirs. That was cool. But I wouldn't go too far down the fucking modding train. I'd keep it pretty close to pure, you know. Nathan Jenkins says, "What would you guys pick for your own Smoking Tire Video of the Year award?" Oh, his vote is for the Baja 911, the TJ Russell car. I would go with that. Best video, best car review video we did this year.
Car review
Asterisk
video,
that nobody watched.
Right.
Yeah, the TJ Russell Baja 911.
I really liked filming
It's a great
and editing
suggestion.
that thing. That was amazing. Best video, I would say, episode 2 when we did our road course for our eBay show was hilarious and exciting and had a bunch of cool challenges and shit. And it was fun to make, but also I think it's really fun to watch. I'd go with that for like overall video.
I think episode 4 of All Cars Go to Heaven on the dirt was a little more fun to make and watch than the road course one because it was a little loosey-goosey and slidey and we got to shoot at each other. That was really fun.
Paintball guns are
As
great.
far as car reviews go, yeah, I mean, the Baja 911 was so good that we took an extra day to film it and we did a lot of extra stuff that we wouldn't normally do.
I found music for it to edit with. Like, we don't do that stuff. Yeah,
we did
fun.
stuff that we don't normally do because we thought the car was so great.
Yeah.
The rest of it, as you probably know, is pretty formulaic and it's just the car that changes, which is fine. That's okay. Yeah. Alex Johnson, last question of the show. Is the Rolex Explorer 2 the next big Rolex? That's a funny question. You know why?
No.
Because it's also the largest diameter Rolex you can buy right now. So it is the next big, literally the next big Rolex, 42 millimeter. I mean, dude, if you look at I don't know about the next big Rolex because it's already there. You know, the Rolex Explorer 2 MSRP on Rolex's website right now is $85.50. And if you go to bobswatches.com/TST or if you go to any secondhand site, what are you going to see? Explorer 2s are like 13 to 15,000. So there's not a next big. I mean, if you're talking about a stainless steel Rolex sport watch, double MSRP is where we're at right now.
Crazy.
I mean, it is crazy. It's crazy because, you know, Rolex fed some bullshit line to one of the watch blogs about how they couldn't about all this shit that was impacting their ability to make watches. Meanwhile, nobody else is having this problem. Rolex, as I've said before, it's a private company. It's not publicly traded. It doesn't have a corporate overlord. And the owners of Rolex are rich as fuck. So they don't get, if they want to make fewer watches to drive up the hype, to drive the value of the secondhand watches, to increase the value of their brand, to make it hard to get, to force people to buy less desirable models that are made of precious metals instead of steel, and at the same time choking out some of their underperforming retailers by not feeding them new stock, which they want to do. They're going to do that.
And it's brilliant.
And they're going to make up
smart.
some very bullshit reasons for the rest of us, like the pandemic or like the supply chain. And they're going to feed that bullshit to the watch blogs and they're going to repeat that. But the truth is, Rolex has too many stores that they want to get rid of some. They want to drive up the value and the demand for steel pieces and make people buy less desirable precious metal pieces in order to gain access. And they don't have the need to maintain a year-over-year growth. They don't give a shit. They're rich as fuck. So if they have a 5-year plan to drive up their market value by cutting off the supply of new watches and only selling to their VIP. Yeah, see, look. The 42 millimeters, the current one, black dial, $13,700. I have that watch, and I paid $7,100 for it 3 years ago. And if you want a 42 millimeter white dial, it's going to be like 15 grand right now. So Bob's has a 42. Some of them are as cheap as 11 and as high as 15. And that's for a watch that retailed for $7,500. And today is listed as a laughable. I mean, a brand new Daytona is listed on Rolex's website of $12,500. The actual transaction price of those is like 35 grand.
Whoa.
Yeah. And that's not even the most ridiculous. I mean, the Pateks are far and away, the retail price of the Tiffany blue Patek is $52,000, and someone paid $6.5 million for one at auction.
What?
Yeah. Even that one right there, used one, that Nautilus, the retail price of that is like 45 grand, and it's listed even on Bob's right now for $140K. That's what the demand is.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's fucking it's a world, and this one's from 2011. That watch was probably 45 grand in 2011. So it's a. Yeah, did you see this one? The Tiffany blue?
I definitely did not, but I'm curious now.
$6.5 million. Limited to, and it's not one of one. 170 pieces. Now, in fairness, this was a charity auction, right? So
okay.
You have that component, right? So everything above and beyond the $52,000 MSRP is tax deductible and charity.
Right.
But even that, there was a non-charity auction of the green one, and it went for €400,000. So it's crazy. It's crazy out there. So to answer that dude's question, I don't think the Explorer 2 is the next thing. I think that's already here.
Crazy.
You know what's the next thing? Datejust 2, baby. Datejust 2. This is a nice watch. I'm feeling this one. You should wear this one for a little while.
I think it looks too big for my wrist, honestly. Was it 42?
This is a 41, I believe.
That's
It
right.
fit you. It fit you. That's our year. I will say, I started the show off on a fucking whiny note because I'm feeling very anxious and feeling kind of sad about where this year has gone. But for podcasting, it's been a very good year.
Hell yeah.
Podcast has been really strong. We had our first full year in this beautiful studio. We got to have guests back in person after 2020 having to do all these remote shit. We figured out the systems. We had a great year for podcast advertising. The Patreon thing is doing well. Podcasting has been really good. We broke off the YouTube channel, and we've got I think it's about 37,000 subscribers on the podcast channel, which for a podcast is good. And that stuff, for all the bad things that have happened on the video side, good things have happened on the podcast side. So fortunately, podcasts are less algorithm kind of things. It's just people find them, they like them, they stick around, and the shows that we've done without guests are good.
Do well. Very well.
That was an amazing realization because it meant we didn't have to have
104 guests per year.
Yeah, we didn't have to always figure out who was going to be the guest, and if those guests aren't big draws, that we don't need them. So anyway, thank you to everyone who listened to our show this year. If you really want to be helpful, go watch All Cars Go to Heaven, because people who watched it really liked it, but it just didn't get fed to people the way we wanted. And if you go to our you don't have to dig very far. Just go to youtube.com/thesmokingtire, and there's a playlist for it right on top. It's got its own playlist. And Happy New Year, everybody. Try not to get COVID. I know you want to go party on New Year's, but try not to get COVID. That would be bad.
I'm going to skip partying on New Year's. I'm going to go drifting at Apple Valley on the day after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to drink a bottle of very expensive wine and home in front of the fire with my cats.
Nice.
That's and I will not make it to midnight. Zero chance of that. Goodbye, everybody. See you in 2022.